If we look at the unfoldment of Arjuna, which perhaps should have a parallel moment of thought in the reader's mind, in the sadhaka's mind, because Arjuna is supposed to be our representative. So it is expected that the thought process of ours will also follow the currents of Arjuna's mind. Now the question of whether to fight the war or not has come to a different level. What Arjuna is saying that, I agree, Lord, what you're talking about, this Sankhya Yoga Sthita person, I understand he's above everything. He adopts to Buddhi Yoga. He knows the purpose of his intelligence, uses the intelligence intelligently, and gets established in a state which allows him to work in the best possible manner. But the question that is coming to Arjuna's mind is slightly different. He says, either you be in the work or be out of the work. How can you be out of the work and yet do the work effectively? How can you say that I am not there in what is happening, and yet what is happening should be done very diligently? If I am not there, then who is doing the work? And if I'm doing the work, then how can I say I am not there in that work? It's quite an oxymoron. Be in the work without your presence. How to technically reconcile that? One. Two, as you say, there are some who have achieved this milestone, the yogis, the Sthita Prajnas or the yogis. How do they manage this? Abandoning, jettisoning everything that is around in this world, they go to the Samadhi. So much so that in the Samadhi, they are not even aware of what is happening around. They are not even aware of themselves. So having completely forgotten his own presence, how is it that when he comes back from the Samadhi, gets involved into everything of in the life the way we get involved, and yet he's untouched by it? In other words, the paradox is, he comes back into the river where we are swimming, and yet he is not made wet by the water. It sounds intellectually absurd for people of our kind. And to prepare the ground for that, Bhagavan is giving an answer, and the answer itself creates a whole lot of interpretative differences. This is called Pathantara Bheda. The reason being, one of the most divine language has its own nuances when it gets pronounced. The very word Shruti Vipratipanna. Now the question is, Shrut Vipratipanna or Shruti Vipratipanna? That one change in the word ta would make the difference for the whole verse. And Gurudev has correctly and right there at the center, bullseye, pointed out that some people try to interpret this as Shrut, Shrutam. It is not Shrutam, it is Shruti. When we say Shruti, the first thing that comes to mind is Veda. And Shruti also means that which is heard. and heard is one particular indriya. So by upalakshana, all the indriyas. So that means all the sensual experiences of all the indriyas. This is called lakshanartha. This is ajahad lakshana. It's not mentioned. What is talking about is hearing. What is interpreted is about all sensuous experiences. So you added the things to that. That's called jahad lakshana. And then by hearing, whatever may be the interpretation of Shrut or Shruti, by hearing, by having all the sensual experiences, and by studying the Vedas, you will be having vipratipada, to go in exact opposite direction. Visheshena pratipadaha. You walk in opposite direction. That means you get completely confused. You take the things completely in a wrong manner. Those who know that such confusion can happen, if they decide to employ their buddhi, because we're talking of buddhi yoga now, buddhi, and make it steady. Where? Sthasyati, but where? Steady. Where? In samadhau. What is samadhau? Sada sthapanam buddhe shuddhe brahmani sarvada tat samadhana ityuktate natu chittasya lalanam. Vivek Chudamani. Samadhau. Establishing the buddhi in Brahman, Atman, self. Again, the beauty of the shloka lies in two things. In the first line, it says Nischala. In the second line, it says Achala. Why not both Nischala? Why not both Achala? Why not one Nischala? Why not one Achala? This is how a Vaiyakarni tries to dissect the shloka to reach to the correct meaning. Abhida also has to be understood properly. Vachartha has to come down, and then the Lakshanarth can be made properly. Nischala, because our buddhi cannot work in this manner. So we go back to whom? To the Rishis. Acharya Madhusudana Saraswati says, Nischala is that buddhi when it gets sthita because of Atma Darshanam, then the waking and a dream, Jagrut and Swapna Avastha, in these two avasthas, he is not disturbed, so he is Nischala. Why? Because in Jagruta and Swapna Avastha, you are having still buddhi and you know buddhi is working. That is why you try to steady it. So there is a Nischayena Sthita, Nischayena Achalata, Nischala. While in the third state called Sushupti, where you have even no awareness of anything, the void that you have in Nidrista Avastha, which is nothing else but the reflection of Ajnana, even in that you are steady, that is Achalata. Jagruti, Swapnavastha, Nischala. Sushupti, Achala. So the one whose intellect, that means Buddhi, is te yada. Yada means when his Buddhi is steady, Nischala, in Jagruta and Swapna Avastha. Steady from what? From going in opposite direction or be getting perplexed. By what? By whatever has been heard, which in other words means all the sensuous experiences, or if he happens to be a sadhaka of a high order, he will be only hearing the Shruti, the Veda, but while hearing the Vedas also, he can have perplexity because of the interpretation of the Vedas, An interpretation of Vedas can have two types of perplexities. One is Veda meant for karmic rituals or a Jiva Brahma Aikya? What is the Sandesham of Veda? If there is some amount of perplexity about that, then that is called as asambhavana. And if we have a doubt about Jiva Brahma Aikya and Jiva Brahma Bheda, then it is called Viparita Bhavana. Both are perplexities of the intellect. For those who are reading the Shruti, such people having the perplexities about reading the Shrutis, if that gets settled by the one whose buddhi is steady in the sleeping and Jagrut, in the dreaming and Jagrut Avastha, in the Nishchala form, and in the sleeping Avastha Sushupti in the Achala form, then he is said to have Yogam. Yogam avapyasasi. Avapsasi. Equipoise of mind are we talking? Now the question is, if anything, all the sensuous experiences that are coming to me, if they are trying to keep me in the most steady form because of my buddhi getting sthita into Atman, because of samadho, then when I am not in the samadhi, when I am seen as a realized person coming back into the world, how does he behave in the world? In other words, a Jivana Mukta post-liberation stage, what is the status of his buddhi and the manam? Is it the same as what he was prior to the time when he went into the samadhi, or it is different at this particular point of time? One, the corollary to this discussion is, what should be my aim? My aim is to get rid of this Maya and all the multifarious activities that are happening around me, which has put me into the danger of pain and happiness, sorrow and happiness, the painful sansaram. Or is it to get out of this and not to come back at all? Or I should get out of this and come back in a renewed form or vigor, which shall not tempt me anymore? Should I stay in the world, fully immersed into the Vishayas that I'm anyway doing? I'm having lots of pain. Should I get out of this world and be away from everything and stop all the attachment, Vairagyam, and be in Vairagyam without getting any interaction, without getting involved into the... So go to the peak of Himalayas and don't come back again. Or reach the peak of Himalayas and do come back again in a renewed form, with what is called as in Shastra, Badhita Avastha. Badhita Anuvrutti is the right word, technical word, and come back and be in this world. And then when we ask this question, which anyway Arjuna is asking, the one who is writing the commentary is actually an ideal example of it. Gurudeva is giving commentary on Arjuna's question. Actually, Gurudeva is the answer to the Arjuna's question. And yet he is saying that Sthita Prajna's ka bhasha. How a Sthita Prajna, one who has reached the pinnacle of self-realization through the act of samadhi, when he comes back from the unattainable heights of self-realization, is he fit enough to get back into the world without getting contaminated by the sensuous experiences? And if he's not getting contaminated by the sensuous experience, is he really enjoying the sensuous experiences or not? Gurudeva was very fond of Srikhandam. Also was fond of Swami Subodhananda ji, had spoken about it, and I was a privy to the hearing of what he was talking about Gurudeva. Even at the time when the doctors had prohibited him from taking salt, He brushed that aside and told the disciple that get me my rice and the papadam, because he liked it. Now, what both these things indicate is the sensuous experiences of Srikhandam and Papadam was being enjoyed by Gurudeva. If it was enjoyed by the Gurudeva, we also enjoyed, then the question is, how is it that he was stain-free? And how is it that we get entangled? Our likings are same. We also like Srikhandam. The answer lies here, and the question is asked for the same thing. Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha. Here again, the Sanskrit has been seen in its elegance here. In the first line, it says, Sthita prajnasya kya bhasha. In the second line, it says, Sthita dhihi kim. One is Sthita prajna, one is Sthita dhi. These are subtle nuances of Sanskrit as well as of the philosophy. Why? When you say Sthita prajna, that means he is having the same intellect which is converted into a stage of buddhi called prajna. Dhi is not prajna. You and me right now, we are in dhi, buddhi. We are using our intellect to understand whatever is happening between all of us. That is buddhi, dhi. But when the same dhi is concentrated, ekagra buddhi, and then when it stops, the chitta vritti is coming into it and elevates itself, the same buddhi gets converted into what is called as prajna. The same buddhi, when it gets into the samadhi and reaches the nirbija samadhi, it becomes dharma megha or rutambhara. It is the same buddhi having different characteristics as one progresses. A yogi who is deep into meditation of the type of nirbija samadhi, his buddhi is called rutambhara buddhi. When buddhi takes the flight from the dhi state and starts crossing one by one the boundaries of vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmita, and starts moving forward, it is called prajna. Prakarshena jnayate. Prakarshena jnayate what? Expansion of consciousness and expansion of knowledge are synonymous. The knowledge gets expanded by day with the meditation, and then it encompasses larger and larger and larger perspective of whatever is being known or whatever is meant to be known. Such a larger perspective then reaches a stage when there is nothing else left to be known. Sarvam idam vijñāto bhavati. Everything is known. That is the height and pinnacle of the expansion of consciousness or the boundaries of knowledge. That is prajna, and one who is stationed in that prajna, sthita prajnasya ka bhasha. Now again Sanskrit comes into the picture. Here it is bhasha in the first line, in the second line prabhashet. Ka bhasha. Bhasha is bhashyate anaya iti bhasha lakshanam iti yavat. Lakshanam, symptom, sign and symptom. What is the sign and symptom of a sthita prajna? Sign and symptoms means what are the lakshanam? That is bhasha. Samadhistasya Keshava, one who is absorbed in the self, samadhi. What are his symptoms, signs, or lakshanam? What is the difference between prabhashet and signs and symptoms? In case of a samadhist, you watch him from a distance and observe. It is your observation. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't speak anything. So you have to guess. Lakshanams are guessed. They're existing in him, but you pick them up. While prabhashet, now he's moving, walking, talking. So you see what he talks, what he speaks, because he's expressing. There is some act happening out of it. In samadhista, there is no act. So sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava. How do I know the signs and symptoms of sthita prajna? Who is sthita prajna? Sthita pratisthita. aham asmi param brahma iti prajna yasya sah bahuvri samas. Sthita aprathishtha, one who is stationed in what? In the feeling that aham asmi param brahma, I am the Brahman. Brahmam, aham brahmasmi. Mahavakya realization. Aham brahmasmi, one who has such a prajna, not the prajna. This is called sthita prajna. And when he is in that avastha of samadhi, samadhisthasya chaturthi. When he is in that, so that means there are 4 questions. The first question is for samadhistha, ka bhasha. And then one who has come back from the samadhi is called sthitadho, sthitadhihi. Now he has intellect, not prajna, intellect, but it is steady intellect. Ours is asthitadhihi. We are asthitadhihi. He is sthitadhihi. Kim prabhashet? How does he speak? Kim aset? What is the, how does he sit? Sit means not whether he is sitting with 2 legs or 4 legs, no. Asit means कैसे बैठता है? How, what are the things when he acts? Is he not aware that he's sitting? Is he not aware that he's eating? So that is why Arjuna is curious to know, after coming back from that journey which he has undertaken for the self-realization, how does he behave in this world? Because we are in the world and I had a problem how to kill my enemies or friends, whatever. And there is a tacit interest of Arjuna in asking this, because he says, had a Sthita Prajna been in my place, how would he look towards this particular war? Will he undertake the war or not? Because it's a sin according to me. According to him, is it a sin or not? That is why Gurudeva has been not only our idol for knowing what is in this world for me, but at the same time, he is a living and burning example for every one of us to know how a person who is realized can be a part of this world in a most vigorous fashion without creating an iota of karman. In other words, how a Jivan Mukta behaves till the drop of his body. To describe this, Kabir Maharaj has written one mystic poem. He says, Hum panchi pardesi baba ani desara nahi. I am a bird from a different land, not from this land. Hum panchi pardesi baba ani desara nahi. Why? Ani desara log acheta. They are not in sthitadhihi. People in this land are not sthitadhihi. Ani desara log acheta. Pal pal darmahi. They are afraid at every step. I am not. I come from the land of Nirbhaya. He says, Pag bina chalana, mukha bina gana. What do you mean by I walk without the legs, I sing without the mouth? What do you mean by that? I do all the karma, but there is no karma karta into it, no kartrutvata. Pag bina chalana, mukha bina gana, bina pankh ud jai. Bina moh ki surat hamari. I have no desires. Bina moh ki surat hamari. Anahad me ram jai. Anahad me ramna sthitadihi. I am constantly dwelling into the steady state. Because post samadhi, I am into the anahada avastha. And that is why one who is like this, about whom samadhi nantarena avastha, anantarena avastha, and samadhistha avastha. One who is samadhistha, how is he? What are the signs and symptoms? And then when he's back to this world of senses, when he's in Jagrut, Shupti and Swapna avastha, Gurudev, when he was sleeping, what kind of sleep was he enjoying? Gurudev, was he dreaming? Did he get any dreams? Ask a question to yourself. When he was giving the lecture to audience of maybe 100,000, what was he feeling? Did he have the feeling that he's delivering the lecture? At the same time, he knew what time the lecture started and what time it ended. How can you have simultaneously be aware of sensuous experiences and yet you are out of and transcending the sensuous experience simultaneously? This improbable feat, which otherwise looks like improbable, how that is possible is the curiosity, so the question. And then the beautiful answer to that is going to come from the mouth of Lord himself in the following shlokas. Hari Om.